welcome to the D Tycoon Show. We're back. This is our first live show of the season. We missed the season due to the pandemic, and I'm very thankful for you viewers, of everyone in the city of Chicago, and I'm thankful to Can TV. I'm thankful to Trudy, who makes a lot of things happen, makes most things happen, and also thankful to the progenitor of this show, Reverend Dr. Catherine Brown, D. Tycoon. Thank you, Mayor Tycoon. So, I'm Bill Morton. I'm the president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. I'm a co-host of the D Tycoon Show, Community Unity Now. And my other co-host, our other co-host is Trudy Leung, and she'll be, we'll be rotating since we can only have so many people in the studio due to the pandemic. I am very honored and happy to have a guest with me today, creator of the Violence Interrupters, Tio Hardiman.
It's an honor to be on the show with you, Mr. Morton, and I also want to send a shout out to Catherine Brown, D. Tycoon. I appreciate that, sister, all the way.
Yeah, D. Tycoon, she said, you got to get Tio in there. I agreed.
Yeah.
Trudy gave you the call, and that's how it goes.
All right.
So, what personal experiences or experience kind of made you decide to create the Violence Interrupters?
Well, I was raised up on the south and west side of Chicago, and I kind of grew up in an area where you had a lot of violence. And believe it or not, in the year 2021, we had a lot of violence back in the late 70s, 80s, and the 90s. It's just the same. The only difference is you didn't have a lot of social media. So what happened is I was always seen as a big brother in the neighborhood where I grew up at. And a lot of guys would look to me to kind of like solve issues sometimes because they didn't know how to really step up and address people. I had no problem. I was never scared to address people as long as I was right about something. But there was one incident in particular. One of my brothers, one of my relatives rather, he took some money from some guys, and basically he got locked up. And so they couldn't catch up with him to pay the money back. So this is how I created the Violence Interrupters. People don't know this. This is a true story. So the guys that he owed the money to, they caught me walking down the street one day because they know I was related to this guy. And so they caught me off guard. 8 guys jumped out of a car, and it's like, hey, man, you're going to have to pay that debt for your relative. I said, hey, man, I don't know what y'all talking about. I can't pay that debt because it's not my debt. And so they basically, one guy pointed me and put his finger in my ear and said, you're going to pay that debt, right? And so once I found out who the guys were, I actually called some friends of mine. And the only reason I called some people is because it was 8 guys, Otherwise, I would not have placed the call. I would have dealt with it somewhat myself, right? So we brought the guys to the table, and we mediated a conflict on my own life, actually, because the guys had threatened me, right? They threatened me, and I got my people there. They were there. We sitting at a table like this, a little longer table. 5 or 6 guys over here, 5 over here. It got heated. People got to talking crazy, and everything started, taking place. But at the end of the day, I did not pay the debt. I think my brother, my family members still may owe them the money even after all these years, right? But we came up with an understanding that it was unnecessary. So I came up with the concept of violence interrupters after we mediating the conflict on my own life, so to speak. So that's what happened there. But I've always, before the cameras, before Tio Hardiman was on the news, before anybody was talking to me, I was already mediating conflicts with people in the hood anyway, because I was seen as a brother that I kind of know everybody. And they respect my opinion. I've never, that's just the way it is.
So that one particular incident, threat on your life, was a catalyst for the Violence Interrupters.
That was a catalyst. That was the beginning.
But there were other mediations of conflict throughout your neighborhood earlier. And you were like a big brother to a lot of people.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so is the Violence Interrupters a derivative of Ceasefire?
Yeah, without a doubt. I used to serve as the director of Ceasefire Illinois, and I created the Violence Interrupters in 2004 while I was working at the UIC School of Public Health. So that's basically, see what happened back then, the gun violence was at an all-time high, and then we had to come up with a new strategy. So I said, you know what, if violence interruption worked for me, it can work for other people as well. And so basically I came up with the concept, Violence Interrupters, back then, and we, I've been pretty much working with Violence Interrupters since 2004. So, it's been some years now. It's been some time, we still pushing it. Now, the only thing is, I'm the originator, the creator of the violence interrupters. A lot of people use the term violence interrupters, but they're not my violence interrupters. Let me just make that clear. Okay. I'm often imitated but never duplicated. See, there's a certain science that goes into my violence interruption model. If you don't have the model, you're going to miss it. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people should really just stop saying that they're violence interrupters unless they are trained by the originator.
So in the city of Chicago or nationwide?
Well, nationwide and sometimes in the city of Chicago. The mayor, the superintendent will mention violence interrupters, but they haven't reached out to me. And I'm the guy, like I say, that came up with the entire concept. I'm not saying I'm the only solution. Let me make that clear. I'm not no big-headed guy. My thing is I'm part of the solution, but I know for a fact that when I was running Ceasefire and in some of the communities in which I work in right now with the violence interrupters, we're seeing a reduction in gun violence. When I ran Ceasefire, we had a timeline when we implemented the program, and we could see where we got results anywhere from 25 to 80% in the reduction of shootings and killings in some neighborhoods based on the model that we implemented during that timeline compared to the data and the numbers from the previous years.
All right. So can you describe your suggestion for a Black Unity program?
Yeah, well, the reason I'm pushing the Black Unity program is because I need everybody to understand this here. A lot of people talk about reducing gun violence. People talk about how crazy it is in the community. See, the gun violence problem, over 80% of the shootings and killings occur in the African-American community. Let's be clear about that. About another 14% occur in the Latino community, and then you have a percentage in the white community, which is like 1 or 2%. They call it the other communities, right? Mm-hmm. So my thing is, if Black men were to unify and Black women like never before, and we organize a disciplined Black community, then we would have less incidents of gun violence because everybody would be on the same page. That's why I'm pushing Black Unity. How does a Black Unity program look? It looks sort of like this. You organize 10,000 men first to hit the community, in a major way and mediate all the conflicts with the brothers out there on the streets. I'm not saying go out there and go crazy on nobody. I'm not saying go out there and tell nobody what they must do. Just see if you can bring them to the table. But what's important, you make sure their family members are involved in the process as well. So they're not going to probably listen to no strangers, but you make sure you have their fathers, their uncles, their brothers, their associates and friends with you when you go talk to the shooters out there and say, look, man, we're just asking you as men, can we bring this issue to the table? You know what, the bottom line, just give it a try. We have to try to make things just something different, so to speak, okay? Mm-hmm. Just do a little something different. I believe it would definitely work.
So,
yeah,
you plead with people not to have their loved ones with them. To protect them against any potential violence. Is this message of yours successful? Well,
the thing is this here. Everybody should understand this. I cannot talk on the show the way I talk on the streets, right? Plus, I'm an adjunct professor in restorative justice and criminology, juvenile justice, corrections, and all that stuff. But this is the thing. If you're involved in street life out there in Chicago, anywhere, Baltimore, New Orleans, wherever you might be, it's very important that you do not... First of all, try not to get involved in street life, because if a person cannot catch up with you, they may catch up with one of your family members. So you indirectly and directly bring your family members into the conflict when you're involved in a street life. You go out there and shoot somebody, for example, and then the people know you the person that shot their friend or their family member. If they cannot catch up with you, they go shoot your family member. So my thing is, if you're not really cut out, you sign up for street life, you know what you signed up for. But remember, when you sign up for it, you're signing your family up for it as well. All these stories about kids being shot, women being shot, grandparents, grandfathers being shot, relatives. It's crazy because most of the time the guys, they know where you live at. It's not like they don't know where you live at. They come to your house the same way you may have come to somebody's house. The thing about it is everybody thinks it's okay when they shoot somebody and hurt the person. Nobody looks at the aftermath or the consequences, and nobody looks at retaliation until retaliation knocks on your front door.
I remember in some communities, a lot of Black women were found in dumpsters.
Yeah.
Burned. I know that a lot of infants and children are being shot nowadays. Can you tell us how your work as a violence interrupter is helping our community, particularly in these kind of violent issues?
Well, basically, just to tell you a few stories, God allowed me to intervene, and I helped move 3 women out of a domestic violence situation because I was on Facebook Live and I put myself out there and I said to everybody, if you're a young lady and you're in a domestic violence situation, inbox me your information and we'll come and liberate you, right? And so about 3 women called my bluff. They did. So I had some friends that are former Navy SEALs and Marines and judo experts, and we went and moved the ladies and relocated the women. And this one guy, I never forget his face. I never mentioned their names, but the one guy, I will never forget his face because we was moving this girl out of the house and he was standing on the wall with his arms folded, looking like he was constipated or something. And he didn't say nothing to us, man. You know, we moved the lady out of there, and she's been doing okay. She's been doing okay. The other 2 women, they're doing quite okay as well. So the point is this: when it comes down to reducing gun violence, you know, there's a lot of ways to go about it because a lot of the gun violence. Everything is not gang related. You have a lot of interpersonal conflict. Like also 2 weeks ago, a young lady, her brother called me and asked me, could I, take his sister over to a particular place on the south side to retrieve her belongings. The guys had shot her apartment up because one of her relatives had did something crazy to somebody, and they told her she couldn't come back over there, so they shot up her apartment. She had a pet cat in her apartment, so she ran away from her place for 4 days. And I took over there and got all that stuff out of the apartment. Not no couches and none of that kind of stuff. We had one little 32-inch TV and some bags and a pet cat. She put the cat in her backpack and got out of there, right? So, and she was very nervous when I took her over there. But as a big brother, I'm not saying people that are watching should do what I'm doing. Because this work is not for the faint of heart. Don't try it at home. And a lot of my friends say you should not have done that, brother. But her brother was a friend of mine, and he did me a favor many years ago. So I returned the favor, and nothing happened. God bless all the peacemakers. Put it like that.
It seems like you have a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
And you're never going to know what's going to happen when you wake up in the morning. What is the most difficult part of being a violence interrupter?
Well, the most difficult part about being a violence interrupter, I talk to people in the media all the time, and I tell news anchors, rather, like if you interview somebody and they cannot tell you the last time they stopped shooting or helped somebody, then what are they talking about? See, a lot of people out there chasing clout, trying to talk good talk like they're doing so much, but everybody shows up after the fact. See, anybody can become a hero after the fact, okay? You got so many people. Let's try to get on the front end and stop the killings on the front end. So some of the major challenges would be, like, for example, some people get us kind of confused. That's the reason why I say a lot of people should stop using violence interrupters if they haven't been trained by the originator of violence. I'm not saying that from an ego standpoint. I'm just being honest. There's a certain chemistry I have, a certain scientific chemistry and a certain way that I work, okay? A lot of people don't understand it because it's all based on personal relationships in the community. But we do not work with law enforcement. That's a challenge because some people say, well, do you guys work with law enforcement in a certain way? No, we do not. I respect law enforcement. I'm not anti-law enforcement. We're anti-excessive force and police brutality. That's the only thing that we're against. Law enforcement have a job to do, and we have a job to do. Our job is to stop somebody from crossing the line. Law enforcement, once a person crosses the line, that's when law enforcement gets involved, okay? So that's a challenge because you never want to perceptions on the streets are very, very detrimental to you. See, you can get hurt out there just by a perception of that you are working. So I'm here to say to the public, I have a relationship with law enforcement, but we don't work with law enforcement. Law enforcement comes out and they might secure, if we have a march, police are out there. If we have a rally or a protest, the police are out there. And then we retrieve data. So we'll know if our program is actually working. We look at how many shootings took place last year compared to this year. And then law enforcement, I must say this out of respect for law enforcement though, they don't have an issue with that because they already know, and then contrary to popular belief, law enforcement, they probably have information already. It's other people out there that are serving as informants. We don't have to serve in that capacity because 9 times out of 10, the police already know what's going on, just like other people may know what's going on.
What is your most rewarding experience? It seems like you're 24/7. You're on. And you're taking calls all the time.
Yeah.
And you're always advocating for the people.
Right.
So what makes this job of being a violence interrupter so rewarding?
Well, basically, we're like intellectual thought leaders as well, so we can work on the street level and we can work in the boardrooms. That's what makes it so interesting, right? I got a chance, all praises due to God. I met with former Prime Minister David Cameron before, Queen Noor from Jordan. I met with former First Lady Laura Bush and former President, Bill Clinton, doing my work. And I've also met with brothers on the streets. So, I don't put nobody on no pedestal. My thing is we all come from where we come from. I was raised in the ghetto. And so, I'm like a success story just by being able to pull myself up by my bootstraps and make a little something out of myself anyway, right? So the moral of the story is that what's rewarding is when you see young people living instead of dying or being hurt, and you see guys come to you after many years. I can recall working with guys when they were 13, 14, 15, now they're like 25 or 26, and they chase me down the street. I'm walking in Hyde Park or walking somewhere. That's my man. I feel good about that because I had an impact in their lives. So that's what's rewarding more than anything else, because I've had a direct impact in so many young people's lives. So that's the reward, because, you meet people, sometimes they're in some very stressful situations, and then you help them think on a higher level and help them elevate their game, their life game, and help them, get on a productive path.
So you have a lot of challenging experiences.
Yes.
How do you overcome your challenges?
Well, the power of prayer is awesome, number one. I pray 3 times a day. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And I believe that God anointed me to do this kind of work here. And that's what's good about it, because no matter what happens, I believe God is watching me as long as I stay within His grace. And basically, that's how I just live my life. See, I don't really worry about what's going to happen. In order to be a peacemaker, there's some risks you're going to take. I can remember vividly when a guy told me he would put me to sleep for meddling in his business, and I heard what he said the first time, and I asked him again. I said, "What did you say?" He said, "I put you to sleep for meddling in my business." And even though he never put me to sleep, I'm here to talk today. But I was in the process of saving a young guy's life, and the guy thought I was in his business on the streets, but I was not in his business. And as an end result, I don't have time to go into the complete story. But we revisited that situation, and the guy apologized to me and everything, because he was trying to take the life of a young guy that had nothing to do with what happened to him. And I knew I had concrete proof the young guy did not do what they thought he did.
Right.
And I was trying to let the man know. And I tell people all the time, do not try this kind of work at home, because when I encountered this brother, he had 2 pit bull dogs as well, and those 2 pit bulls were sniffing me, man, to see if they can detect any type of whatever, reaction from me. And they were like assassin pit bulls. They were not just I love dogs. I love.
They were trained.
Trained attack with pit bulls, and all he had to do was say the word. They were going to try to devour me. So, but I was already I was committed to the scene. See, I walked over there and I couldn't run. You know what I mean? So I had to stand there before he started sweating a little bit, because I know he had a gun in his little hoodie he had on. But to make a long story short, I stood my ground in the most positive, productive way, and I told him that young guy did not do what you thought he did. So mainly, man, get this guy a pass. And he gave him a pass. And I saw the guy 2 months later that threatened me. And I was in a McDonald's drive-thru, and somebody was blowing their horn at me a lot. And that was that brother. And he put his fist up there. "How you doing, big brother?" That was his way of apologizing to me, right, without formally apologizing, okay? Because he knew I was in the right. But that was a difficult situation. So there's, and the reason I tell you these stories, because if people tell you everything is cool out there and you don't have no close encounters and you're trying to save lives, I don't think people are telling the truth. I've been in close encounters, because when you go to the concrete jungle, you're going to have some close encounters every now and then. People may talk to you crazy. People may look at you crazy. Some people may try to get physical with you. I can remember one time I saved the life of a transgender lady. A guy was about to hurt her real bad, and I intervened. I saved her life, basically. Yeah.
So you've been doing this for how long?
Wow, about 15, 16 years. But, even before that, when I was growing up in the projects on the west side of Chicago, south side, it's basically, I've always been okay with everybody. So my thing is, been doing it a long time, man. Like I said, I was born on September 21st, and then September 21st is celebrated as the International Day of Peace for peacemakers. So I believe I was just destined to do this kind of work. And a lot of people just, for whatever reason, I have a good relationship with people from the street level all the way to the top.
Wow, and you've been in so many difficult situations within the city of Chicago and the suburbs as well.
All over the place. I've worked in Baltimore, I've worked in New York, Kansas City, and Memphis, did some work in Detroit, just to name a few places, all over Illinois. So, God has blessed me to have the respect from the brothers on the street. That's the reason why I always maintain my street credibility. because at the end of the day, I live in a community, and you never want to put yourself out there where you compromise who you are or compromise your integrity because you live around the brothers and sisters. So if they see you out there, say, look, that man is straight up. And plus another, I'm not perfect by a long shot. I just want to say that, but I have respect for my relatives that have passed away. So whenever I pass away, I'm not in no rush, but I want to be able to hold my head up, say, look here, I didn't compromise nowhere. I didn't compromise my integrity, my family integrity.
All right.
Yeah.
We were doing a press conference
Okay.
about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic happened,
Okay.
For the Chicago Missing Persons Registry. We need a new missing persons registry because it's just not good enough.
Okay.
And Mandy Michelle is watching right now. She was a former guest at the show.
Yes, indeed.
So could you maybe talk about that a little bit, about what you feel that missing people need in the city of Chicago?
Well, you have to understand, when somebody's missing, like there's a 13-year-old girl missing from the West Humboldt Park community right now. I saw it on the news earlier today. And when a family member is missing, man, it's just, it's heart-wrenching, okay? It's at a point, especially with the family, they're like, look here, man, everybody's in suspense. They're hoping nothing bad happens to their missing loved one. And you hear the stories about how women have gone missing. They've been, unfortunately, their lives have been taken. So with the Missing People Registry, I think when we had the press conference, we were talking about bringing more attention to the registry because it appears that some people are just sweeping it under the rug, so to speak. But those are human beings. Those are real people, lives. And when people are missing, especially in communities of color sometimes, even for white women, it's not just so much about black women, Latino women, Asian women, it's for all women. It's about all women. It just so happened that over the last 10 or 15 years in Chicago, about 77 plus African-American women have been killed in Chicago, mysteriously so, and nobody's really talking about it. We had to protest in front of the FBI, talking about the forensics because it was a backlog with the forensic tests and everything, and then the Missing People's Registry. Come on, how could you not? The Missing People's Registry should be on the news right before the 6 p.m. news comes on every channel. They should show the Missing People's Registry and show the faces.
It used to be the milk cartons.
Yeah, it used to be the milk cartons.
It used to be the commercials.
Yeah.
And then now there's a missing persons television show, but nobody really watches that.
Nobody watches it, right? That's why on the regular news, they should have the registry up there before the news comes on, or they should have 30 seconds out of every news channel, all the way from the big top news to the local news, saying, look, these are the missing people here. If you've seen this person, just flash their faces or something, because it's a hurting thing if you got, I can remember the story out of Cleveland where the guy taking the girl when she was on the bus, and he forget the young lady's name, but he held her captive for she became a grown woman. They had a couple of kids and everything, and she was they were in the house next door and they had neighbors, and this guy he killed himself when he was locked up for it. And I forget the young lady's name in Cleveland, but the point is that young girl had been missing for almost 15, 16 years, and they were right next door to a lot of neighbors. The guy was out in the backyard playing a guitar and stuff, barbecuing like nothing was going on. He had a soundproof room down there. It reminds you of a horror movie, right? So no one would want their relative, especially a woman, in a situation like that. That kind of upsets me personally because I've been trying to pay it forward to women in my life. Just trying to pay it forward. For whatever reason, I'm paying it forward. That's why I never hesitated when I have to intervene. God allowed me to save 12 women from a prostitution ring some years ago as well. Okay?
So we need to put more resources into the Missing Persons Registry, and we need to rewrite the Chicago Missing Persons Registry in particular, because there are so many people missing. You see it all the time on the internet, and I don't know who's out there looking for them. And the police know some things, and maybe their hands are tied in some ways. I don't know.
Well, I don't think the police hands are tied. It's just hard when a person is missing. It's like a thief in the night. They grab them and they disappear. I was watching a video where a lady was leaving a shopping center. She was in a parking lot, and she went to put the buggy back, and some guy slid up in the back of her car. I guess he subdued her, and another guy jumped in the driver's seat and drove off with the lady. That stuff, man, pierces your heart, because, she was related to some people. Personally, when people do that kind of stuff, I cannot even talk to you about, this or that, not on no TV, man. But them some real deranged people, man. They really deranged, man. You're taking advantage of people that can't defend themselves, and it's just hardcore, man. And it's law enforcement can only do so much, but it's dead wrong to take advantage of another human being because your mind is messed up. It's just dead wrong.
That's right. So we have maybe 1 minute left or so.
Okay.
So what else are you into these days?
Well, just, I teach as an adjunct professor, I work out to the best of my ability, and I run, jog, 1 mile twice a week, keep my cardio going, lift weights and all that good stuff there, meditate, listen to a lot of music. I'm not a professional singer, but I used to sing in the hallway of the project, so I sing just to entertain myself sometimes because you cannot be serious all the time.
Right.
You have to have an outlet. It's mandatory that people have an outlet. Otherwise, you might go crazy.
Because I know you're on it all the time.
All the time, yeah. Just received 3 or 4 calls since I was here in the studio.
Yeah, I heard it. I can't talk about it on TV, but I heard it.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you so much for coming over.
Okay.
This is the D Tycoon Show. Reverend Dr. Catherine Brown D Tycoon, thank you so much for having Trudy and I as co-hosts and kind of taking the show on and giving it a breath of new life. And it's wonderful that we get to have excellent guests like Tio Hardiman here.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm Bill Morton. I'm the president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and you can call the Chamber of Commerce for a job. You need a job? 773-850-0049. Chamber of Commerce. And we got lots of jobs out there. So thank you very much.